UFC Paris, or UFC Paris, however they say it on that side of the world. I'm a dumb, uncultured American. UFC Fight Night Paris is next weekend, my boys, and today I'm going to be giving you all my full card predictions and breakdown for the underratedly pretty good card that we got here. The prelims, there's a little bit of depth. We have a number one contendership spot in the main event, and even though this card, it doesn't have Moicano talking trash about the politics of France, I feel like we're going to see a lot of finishes, bangers, and who knows, maybe even some politics on the mic. It is France, okay? Who the hell knows? Today I'm going to be giving you all my full card predictions and breakdown for this Paris card, okay? It's a good one. So starting off with the first one we got here, the unk of all unks, Brad Tavares, okay? 40 plus pro fights here versus Robert Bryzcek, and I'm going to be going with Brad Tavares. Now I understand it's the big old 2025 and Brad Tavares is almost a minus 300 favorite, sorry. No, you're not dreaming. That really is a thing. It's just one of these matchups where he's going against Bryzcek, who is 0-1 in the UFC, and the loss is a unanimous decision to Ihor Potieria. Ihor fucking Potieria, okay? This motherfucker looks like an iron golem, except without the iron, okay? He looks like something out of a bridge, and his fight style, his fighting skills in general, it isn't anything much. To a lot of the UFC standards, he is a bit of a jobber, so for him to be 0-1 and that's who he's losing to, he's getting outstruck, he's getting knocked down, it's a bad look. So I think that's part of why Brad Tavares is such a big favorite. He has so much more experience, so much more high-level UFC experience. He seems like the more well-rounded fighter, and even though Brad Tavares, he's getting up there in age and there isn't anything crazy in his skill set, he's been finished on the feet a lot before, I think that he'll be able to survive whatever the fuck the Bryzcek is going to bring out of him, okay? I understand that Tavares is the older fighter, he does have a lot of damage on him here, but Bryzcek, 6 losses, 0-1 in the UFC, I'm not crazy about the striking, he's got the 0% takedown accuracy, okay? You love to see that. I just feel like that Brad Tavares is just going to show the experience gap here. He's a technical striker, he's durable against someone who doesn't fucking crack to the moon here, and I think for Brad Tavares, a big weakness of his with that old age, yes, it comes with a lot of good experience, okay, but it comes with a lot of losses, and against an explosive enough fighter or a young enough fighter or someone who could just out athletic them, outpoint them, or is just more well-rounded than Brad Tavares, obviously that's going to favor them. But Bryzcek, I just don't think he is that. And Brad Tavares, he's like that friend, you know, where he's in a band or he's on Spotify, okay, he's making music, and you check in with him 5-10 years later and he has the same amount of listeners, he's still just doing the same old shit. That's what Brad Tavares' band would be. He's still here, he's still in the UFC, he wins one and he loses one. He wins one and he loses one. He's kind of just been in the same exact fucking spot for years, okay? Somebody please check on Brad Tavares, okay? But honestly, even though against most fighters it seems like in the UFC right now, it would be an unfavorable matchup for Brad Tavares, I think that his striking is technical enough, he'd be durable enough in this matchup specifically, and he's got good enough cardio and solid enough fight IQ to survive this one. I feel like outpoint him and outstrike him to win a 30-27 or a 29-28 here, okay? Moving on up next to Sam Patterson versus Trey Waters. Now, if you're a hardcore, you're going to push up your glasses for this one. You love this matchup probably, okay? My prediction here is going to be the slight favorite in Sam Patterson. And dude, I mean, these guys only have 3 pro losses combined. They're good prospects to invest in. They're both relatively young, 29 years old for Patterson, 30 for Waters, okay? And Waters, he's a lot more of the inactive fighter here. We haven't seen this guy fight since he had a pretty good back and fucking forth against Billy Ray Goff. Last year, I believe it was like Lewis versus Nascimento. If you even remember that Nascimento even fucking exists, okay? It was that card, but Trey and Waters, I just said Trey and Waters. Trey Waters, he's on land for this one, okay? But Trey Waters, he's long, he's rangy, he throws a lot of output on the feet, he's a pretty solid striker. I feel like his power really hasn't been shown off in the UFC, like he has 2 decisions, okay? And in the Contender Series appearance, he got choked out, so there is a bit of ground game vulnerability there, and I think going against Sam Patterson, that could be fucking dangerous, because he's got a mean, dangerous rear naked choke, and in general, his submissions are clean, but he also has enough power on the feet to fucking knock you out. He's coming off of a knockout win, so Sam Patterson, he's a lot more of the well-rounded fighter here. He's pretty strong in all regards. He's got good finishing ability, okay? He's got power on the feet, but he also has a good wrestling base to take you the fuck down and even submit you, okay? Occasionally in his fights, he does have a bit of a slow start, or he doesn't throw too much output, but the thing about a lot of his fights, they're not even making it that long to worry about his cardio, or to worry about the high output on the feet, or to worry about that kind of shit, okay? He keeps finishing his opponents inside 1 round, and yes, he has been knocked out before, but again, Trey Waters, he's coming off a submission loss, so these guys have experienced losses before, but in general, the betting odds are pretty close, so the odds makers are showing respect to Trey Waters, and he is a good striker. He is a bit explosive, and I do like the height and reach advantage that he has here. Well, what's more so just the height advantage, but he is a bit long and rangy going against most guys for this division, but I'm going to be trusting in the durability and the strength and the well-rounded skill set of Sam Patterson. I say a submission in round 2 or 3, or a unanimous decision for Sam Patterson, okay? Moving on on up next to William Gomis taking on Robert Rochala, okay? And my prediction here is going to be William Gomis. A bit of a fall from grace. It seemed like it was just yesterday he was getting arguably robbery wins in the hometown of France over Joe Anderson Brito, and now he's back in France, but it's a bit of a downgrade, okay? Because after the win over Joe Anderson Brito, it went to show that honestly the fact that Gomis is back in France might go to favor him here, because a lot of people thought that was a robbery decision that Joe Anderson Brito should have won. But in general, Gomis won that fight, and even the fact that he's taken a guy that's as good as and as well-rounded as Joe Anderson Brito to that close of a decision, it's a bit of a win for him, okay? But then, even carrying that height, finally building some momentum for himself, he just loses to Hyder Emil. It was a close decision, don't get me wrong, it was a pretty solid fight, but ultimately just losing all that, and now he's 4-1 in the UFC, he's coming off a loss, he's trying to get a bit of a win here, and he's going against a guy who's 11-1, so he's a hungry prospect on the rise with good finishing instincts, Robert Rochala, and he's only experienced one loss, so it could be a bit dangerous for Gomis here, but I don't see him getting finished. He's pretty fucking durable, okay? It's hard to beat him in general, but he's pretty durable. He's got a good chin, okay? And he's got elite enough striking, solid enough output. His power isn't anything too crazy. He's only got one knockout in the UFC, but in general, not too much pop behind his shots, but it's enough thud to accumulate a bunch of damage. It's enough to keep you on your fucking toes, okay? Not to sound like a white grandpa here, but in general, Robert Rochala, there are some things that could play into his favor here. This is his UFC debut, so he could go out there and get some stunning kind of finish or just some kind of performance where obviously when somebody's making their debut, they want to add something to the highlight reel. They want to make a statement, but I feel like William Gomis, 4-1 in the UFC, and he's not facing just jobber after jobber, so I feel like there could be a bit of an experience gap here, and Robert Rochala, he's only like 25 or 26 years old here, but he's coming off of back-to-back knockout wins. Now, he's coming from KSW, which is a pretty respected promotion outside of the UFC, but the fact that he is coming off of a knockout loss before the back-to-back wins he got, it is a bit concerning, okay? Because William Gomis, he can't crack too hard, but his striking is good enough, and maybe it's some kind of round 2 or 3 knockout for William Gomis, or he's just outpointing him and outstriking him for 3 rounds. But Rochala, I don't know too much about him, to be honest. Again, I've never seen him fight. This is his UFC debut, but I mean, trusting in Gomis, he's a big favorite. I like what I see on him on the feet, and he's got solid takedown defense, so that even if Rochala, he's got a couple submissions on his record, if he wants to mix this fight up and take it to the ground, maybe he can, but I think Gomis' takedown defense will hold up here overall. On top of the fact that he has the hometown advantage, I see a decision coming in the way for William Gomis here, okay? Moving on up next to Andreas Gustafsson versus Rinat Fakherdinov. Now, this is kind of a low-key banger we have in our hands here, and the betting odds are very close, but I'm going to be going with Andreas Gustafsson. I know that in his original UFC debut, it was against KS Williams at UFC 316. First of all, I mean, respect for the quick turnaround, but it was a performance that got a lot of shit from the crowd. It got a lot of shit from fans in general, but honestly, it's been aging pretty well. It's been aging well as time has been going on, because Andreas Gustafsson, now all of a sudden, he's your hardcore favorite fighter, okay? All of a sudden, now he's the prospect to invest in, and Rinat Fakherdinov, he's kind of been known lately for just getting robbery win after robbery win, it seems like, but we can't forget, I mean, people forget, man, but the guy is a good fighter, okay? To have 25 pro fights and only 1 loss in general, no matter how much or how little he's fought in the UFC, or no matter the competition, whatever the fuck it may be, that is impressive to do, okay? I don't think Rinat Fakherdinov going to be top 5 or top 10 level, maybe top 10, 15, but whatever the fuck, okay? But Andreas Gustafsson, he's got half as much experience for pro fights, but I think this guy's a motherfucker. He sets an insanely heavy pace and pressure. He's mean in the clinch. He's got nasty elbows, and his wrestling offense in general, he gets the fuck after it. A very aggressive pace that makes anybody uncomfortable, and he's got good finishing instincts. I don't believe that he was able to actually take out KS Williams. I believe it was some kind of decision, but dude, he busted him the fuck up. He was beating the fuck up and just frustrating him to the point to where he had so much cage control to where KS Williams, he just wasn't able to get going at all in that fight. And even on the Contender Series, man, like, Gustafsson just seems like an S-tier marauder, okay, in every sense of the word. Now, Rinat Fakherdinov, again, there's a reason why this guy has only had 1 loss. There's a reason why the betting odds are so close. He's got slick wrestling. He's got good top control. He's never really been finished. He's durable. He's on a pretty good win streak right now, and his grappling transitions are pretty fucking slick. He's good in the scrambles, so I think he lacks a bit of that one-punch knockout power. I think even on the feet in general, he can be outstruck. Like, Carlos Leo was piecing him up, and Carlos Leo just got knocked out by Muslim Salikov, okay? There's levels to this, and in general, he does struggle sometimes to get what he wants out of the fight, okay? He's not necessarily outlanding everybody every time. He's not getting all the takedowns he fucking wants, and in general, this isn't stepping in on Abu Dhabi or the Russian side of the world kind of terms for him, okay? He's out here in Paris, so Andreas Gustafsson, I think he's going to set a very heavy pace, a immediately try and get this fight in the clinch, or immediately start shooting some takedowns and try and gas out or knock Fakherdinov and really accumulate a shit ton of damage, okay? Maybe some heavy ground strikes if he is able to get him down. Who the fuck knows? But the betting odds are close. I think this is going to be a banger, and Fakherdinov is good, well-rounded, and he's very durable, so I think he'll be able to survive to make this to a decision. But Gustafsson, his offensive grappling and clinch work and finishing instincts in general is going to be too fucking much. He's got a good fucking gas take as well, especially for the bigger weight classes, so respect to him for maintaining the heavy pace. I will say this though, Fakherdinov, if he does win by robbery decision or not, man, I mean, I wouldn't be too fucking surprised, because Andreas Gustafsson, we haven't seen him fight too much in the UFC, and obviously there is a bit of a skill level or a gap once these guys get to the UFC and they're facing guys that are kind of lingering outside the rankings like a Fakherdinov. So it's a very close fight. I'm going to be trusting in Gustafsson, but who the fuck knows, okay? Moving on up next to Martin Tybura, the gatekeeper of all fucking gatekeepers, and he's back at it once again, taking on someone who's not even in the fucking rankings. Ante Delija here. It's a very close fight in terms of the betting odds here, and I'm going to be going with Martin Tybura, but I'm very hesitant because I think the gatekeeper is going to get done once again. He's going to take out another prospect on the rise, or another guy stepping in from another promotion, Glory Kickboxer, or whatever the fuck it may be, somebody from some one championship, Bellator. Martin Tybura does not discriminate against fucking blobbing it up out there, okay? He's the veteran of all veterans, and it's just one of these guys where he is a bit goofy. You don't hear from him much on the mic or whatever the fuck, but inside the cage, he's a bit of a goof, okay? But the fact is, he is a good fighter. He's not great enough to be in the top 5. Everybody there whoops him, but he's a good enough and well-rounded enough fighter. He's got solid enough ground and pound, experience, cardio, and in general top control, good in the clinch, like to where he's beating up all these prospects, and he's beating up pretty much everybody in the UFC outside of that top 10 or even that top 8 range, okay? Him and Sergey Spivak are going life and death to battle it out for who is the number 1 gatekeeper for the division, okay? They're going to be battling it out in a quadrilogy in 2030 in the Apex, okay? Yeah, what was the question? Martin Tybura? Yep, we're giving this kid somebody else from one championship. Now, Ante Delija, I'm not even going to bullshit y'all. I don't know too much about him. He has a pretty similar record to Martin Tybura, but I don't know too much about him. It seems like he has heavy power on the feet. He's got good distance striking, and he's got good finishing ability, but he seems a bit susceptible to be taken down and worked on top, and I think that he's a bit inexperienced from what I see against high-level grapplers in the fucking UFC. Again, this is his debut, and obviously there ain't no grappling like Martin Tybura grappling, because dude, as much as it is fucking funny to just meme about Martin Tybura, the ground and pound is fucking good. He's piecing up Johanna Tadis and everybody fucking else, even his own bloodline, even his mother got pieced up spiritually through that performance, okay? Martin Tybura, it just seems like no matter how many times these guys in the UFC are throwing him the Tai Tuivasas or the Mick Parkins or the Johanna Tadis, it doesn't matter, okay? He keeps on winning. He's got a durable enough chin to where it is hard to finish him, okay? He can get knocked out. He can get submitted. And Ante Delija, it seems like he's a heavy enough hitter to possibly do that. But his wrestling is a bit concerning here, because Martin Tybura, he has no problem getting either a round 1 knockout or stinking it up a boring as fuck blobfest over 3 rounds, okay? So Martin Tybura wants to stink this one up on the ground and make it a boring performance. He could do that. If he wants to implement his ground and pound and his top control, okay, then he could fucking do that, okay? Bust him up with some elbows. Who the fuck knows from the mighty Martin Tybura, okay? I usually am not going with Tybura in a lot of instances, but I picked Parkin to beat him, I picked Denis to beat him, and it's just another guy from an outside promotion, and he has 6 losses already, to where I just don't know too much about him, and I get that a lot of people are going with him, I get that the betting odds are close, but I just don't know too much about him, and I do unfortunately know a lot about Martin Tybura, to where I'm going to be going with Tybura to get this one done. It would be kind of nice to have a new name in the rankings and a new kind of face to kind of make the rankings a little bit more interesting, because heavyweight is a literal fucking desert with the tumbleweeds just bouncing around in slow motion. We need a little bit of something going on. Tybura can't just keep beating all these guys, okay? We need to put in Thanos himself to fucking face Martin Tybura one day, but maybe Delija's good enough. Again, I don't know too much about him, but I'm going to be trusting in the well-rounded skill set of all fucking things here and the durable chin. He might be a bit slower, and again, the cardio isn't anything crazy. He's not the heaviest hitter, but overall, I'm going to be going with Martin Tybura to get this one done. Moving on next to more big boys, man. We got Omar Sy versus Bryzcek Ribeiro, and Omar Sy, man, I can't forgive you, okay? I can't fucking forgive you, because this guy was a minus 800 favorite going against Alonzo Menifield, the goofy goober of this division, and he was able to even outstrike him and land a takedown in him, but he still lost a unanimous decision, and he lost all of his hype. He lost his O in his fucking undefeated streak, okay? He's now 11-1, and now he's back in the prelims. Now he's taking on more unranked motherfuckers, okay? Yeah, what was the question? Omar Sy, yep, this kid's going back in the prelims, and he's not fighting a ranked opponent until 2030, okay? Brenson Ribeiro, he's got 8 losses, so a shit ton more, but he also has a few more wins here. But in general, Brenson Ribeiro is just the less impressive fighter here. As much as I'm shitting on Omar Sy for his shitty performance against Alonzo Menefield, barely any output on the feet. I mean, it was like 30 strikes total, and I'm pretty sure that's what outstruck Menefield, okay? So we're not dealing with much here, but it was an embarrassing performance considering the fact that it was such a big opportunity for him, so hopefully he kind of bounces back. I know he's not the biggest finishing artist in the entire world here, okay, but he's dealing with Brenson Ribeiro, who I feel like is a bit more of the explosive fighter here, okay, and he sets a bit of the heavier pace. Maybe he can drag him into some deep waters, or maybe kind of set a bit of a heavy tone on the feet to where Omar Sy is a bit uncomfortable and he actually needs to throw higher output, or he actually shows a bit of urgency to really drag this one to the mats. Because I will say this about Omar Sy, even though he choked in his last performance, man, his wrestling is good for the lighter weight classes, okay? He reminds me a bit in terms of his style of Cyril Gane, if Cyril Gane knew how to mix it up on the ground, but I don't think his striking is as good as a guy like Gane, okay? And I don't think his grappling is fucking dominant, but he does know how to mix it up pretty efficiently. It's just the last performance was such a rough look because that was kind of his first slight step up in competition and he choked. But he's a minus 400 here. He's in France. It's a big opportunity for him to bounce back with a win. He does have a bit of an unorthodox kind of goofy style in the feet, a bit of creative striking. Maybe that can mix up Brenson Ribeiro here, who Brenson I feel like does have the power advantage on the feet, so maybe that can give Sy some problems. But overall, I'm going to be going with Omar Sy to get this one done. If he's able to get comfortable early and he's able to get in the flow early and kind of set the pace that he wants and is able to efficiently get Ribeiro down in the early goings of the fight, and he knows that it's possible, I can see Omar Sy cruising pretty slickly to a 30-27 decision here, or maybe some kind of late submission, maybe even a bit of ground and pound this time around from Omar Sy. But I don't just want to count out Brenson Ribeiro. I mean, he is a bit of a fucking veteran at this point here. Not as much of a veteran to where, oh, I'm tipping my Ben Askren throw to him, okay? I'm not sending flowers to the career of Brenson Ribeiro. But you know what I'm saying. He's got heavy finishing output, okay? He's got a nice mix of KOs and subs. He's a bit durable at times. He can get fucking gritty with it, but he's inconsistent with his performances. He's inconsistent with his output on the feet, and he could be outpaced and just outworked by somebody who's quicker than him on the feet or a bit more powerful, or somebody who knows how to mix it up on the ground and drag him and just make him uncomfortable. Brenson Ribeiro is capable of getting a submission, but I think Omar Sy is going to be too big for him, too strong on the ground, and I think he's going to be trying to really make a fucking statement here, okay? The cardio is a bit of a question mark, and if he's not able to take down Brenson Ribeiro in the first half of the fight, and he's like 0-3 for takedowns, put all your money on Ribeiro, but I'm going to be trusting in him to be the heavier pressure wrestler here and get this one done via a unanimous decision, okay? Moving on up next to open up the main card here, we got Patricio Pitbull taking on Lucene Keita. Lucene Keita, it sounds like a literal anime character, okay? We got the Afro Samurai here. Now, the thing is, here's the fucking thing, you guys. I'm not even gonna fake bullshit, y'all, okay? It's the same thing as whatever the fuck his name was. Ante Delija taking on Martin Tybura, okay? Another guy making his debut in the UFC here. We have multiple UFC debuts on this card. This is the third one, I believe, okay? I've never really seen this guy fight. I had to kind of look in to do a bit of research here, look at his record, look at the highlight reels, look at a couple of his fights here, okay? And I will say, this guy's scary as fuck. Yeah, what was the question, Lucene Keita? He's an S-tier marauder, okay? The guy has hands of fucking steel. He's making Jeff Neal quake in his boots over there, okay? Only one loss ever in his pro career. He's 16-1, and it was via injury, so the guy is practically undefeated. And he's taking on Patricio Pitbull here, who, I don't know, is he representing Bellator at this point, or UFC? Because he's 1-1 in the UFC, okay? But he still just fucking made his debut in the UFC in April. So I will say this about Pitbull. I really respect the activity, man. He just fucking fought in July, okay? And it was another decision, okay? And then he fought in April, so the fact that he's fighting 3 times within 5 or 6 months, I gotta fucking tip my Ben Askren throw to him, okay? I'm not the craziest about Pitbull. I feel like it's been 2 duds of decisions, unfortunately, but I will say the activity shows that he's fucking almost 40 years old and he's trying to fucking get the most out of his time. He understands that the clock is ticking if he wants to make a move in the top 5 or just really get the most out of the time he has left for as hard as he can hit, as quick as he could be on the feet, as much as he could be efficient with the takedowns before his chin just goes out on him, okay, and he gets a glass cannon kind of vibe. I respect that he's getting the fuck after with the activity. Now, is this a winnable fight for him? Yes, I fucking think so, okay? This Lucene Keita guy, he seems fucking scary, okay? Devastating knockout power. He seems like the faster guy on the feet, and he's much younger. He seems much more athletic. I mean, Patricio Pitbull is at the tail end of his career. He can get rocked, man, okay? He's very beatable at this stage. He can get outstruck. Like, if you're powerful enough and dynamic enough on the feet, like Yair Rodriguez, you could piece him up and stuff down all the takedowns for the most part. Like, That's a guy in Yair Rodriguez who's not even too well-rounded. He's primarily just a striker, primarily just a kickboxer, and even he was able to point out Pitbull. Lucina Quinta, it seems like he's not too much of a wrestler, okay? Not too many submissions or anything like that. He seems like primarily just focusing on the power behind his hands, and he seems like he sets a pretty heavy pace. Seems a bit hard to figure out on the feet as well, and he's a 2-division Octagon champion, and Octagon is a pretty respected promotion outside the UFC. He has the explosive power and the fucking confidence, and it seems like the momentum for the hardcores to fucking take this one. He's the favorite in this fight, but I honestly am going to be going with Patricio Pitbull. That's going to be my prediction, man. I'm not crazy about Pitbull. I'd never really have too much to say so far to really hype him up, but he's going to be my prediction. I'm going to be trusting in the underdog money here, okay? I trust in his fight IQ. Sometimes he fucking stinks it up. Like, genuinely, in both of his fights in the UFC, they have been duds, but the guy does what he needs to do to fucking win. He's got pretty good grappling on the offensive end. His takedown defense can hold up here. He's got solid submission entries. He's got good experience in 5-round wars, or good experience knocking out people in 1 round, okay? And against Dan Ige specifically, he showed a little bit more output on the feet, a little bit getting the fuck after it with the pace and pressure, because against Yair Rodriguez, he was like he was stuck in the mud a bit, okay? He seemed a little bit more in it against Dan Ige, which is good for him, okay? But I think Pitbull, man, I think his chin's going to be able to hold up. Like, the fact that he fought back-to-back power strikers, and they're UFC level power strikers. One's in the top 5 and one's in the top 15. For Patricio Pitbull, man, I feel like that this is another power striker who could take his lights out, who could be explosive enough and athletic enough and younger. And Patricio Pitbull, man, he's just at the tail end of his career, and he's one of these Bellator guys. I get it. I really fucking do. Truly, okay? I'm not crazy about Pitbull, but I think that he genuinely, even though he can be outpaced by younger and explosive guys, I think that he'll be able to hold this one through. I think that he can be able to efficiently mix it up in the wrestling, okay? Get a couple of takedowns here. Keita, it seems like he has solid takedown defense, but you never know at the Bellator and the UFC goddamn level. I mean, Bellator and Octagon level are pretty fucking similar, but at the UFC level, alright? Play the fucking music. Now, I think the age and the fact that he's slowing down on the feet and just slowing down in general, he's a bit less durable. That could hurt Pitbull, okay? Keita could totally take this one by some devastating knockout. It's a huge statement, okay? UFC and Uncle Dana, they got what they wanted out of Pitbull. They got their 2 fights. They gave the hardcores what they wanted, and now they're turning over to the double Octagon champ. Who knows? But I think Pitbull, man, he's just a more well-rounded fighter. He's taking the most out of the time he has left. He has much more experience, and I feel like he has a durable enough chin against these guys like Rodriguez and like Ige to where I think he'll be able to survive against Keita, okay? It's not 5 rounds either. He's got 3 rounds, which is enough time for him to either stink it up and stall at the clock, or maybe outstrike Keita and somehow, still survive. So I'm going to be trusting in the experience and the more well-rounded skill set and the old man durability of Patricio Pitbull, okay? Now is his time. I don't even know what the fuck is that. I'm literally just making up references I don't even know. I don't know what the fuck that's from, okay? Moving on up next to Ziam versus Cal Fernandes, and I'm going to be going with Ziam, man. I'm a Ziam fan, and genuinely, he has earned my respect, okay? Because the fact that against Mike Davis in his last outing, I believe that's who it was against, the fact that he beat the allegations of Davis being the superior grappler, and this guy got taken down by Claudio Cuellas like 10 fucking times and shit like that. Ziam, man, he's young, and he's been making massive fucking improvements. I feel like before, people were saying, oh, like, yeah, he's on a win streak, but he's way too timid. He's not a finishing artist. Okay, he's boring. But now, after the brutal fucking knee knockout, I believe it was, whatever the fuck it was, over Matt Frivola, taking his fucking soul so that it immediately comes out of his body. You know, like that little white blob that floats out of your body, like in the Looney Tunes, the soul. That's what I'm fucking talking about. It was devastating. Somebody please check out Matt Frivola's family, okay? After that, having a really fun back and forth fight and improving his grappling a lot. He looked good in the scrambles, good with his takedown defense. Even on the offensive, man, like Ziam, we were questioning how he survived. We were questioning how he looked so good on the ground. So the past 2 fights alone have really been boosting his momentum, boosting the confidence with the fans, okay? And there's a reason why he's a massive favorite here, because the fact that he was already on a win streak before was good, but he's young enough, only 28, to where, yes, he's continuously improving. He's looking good in the scrambles. He's got the reach and height advantage for this fight specifically. He is only 2 years younger, but he's just fucking entering his prime. I like the improvements on the ground. I feel like he is a very patient and technical fighter. I know that he did take the soul out of Matt Frivola, but he's usually not a finishing artist on the feet. But he's got good timing, good fight IQ. He's patient and technical, but he's a very slick striker. I don't think Kai Fernandes, he's got an impressive record at 10-2, but I don't think that he has really anything in his skill set to stand out to where he's going to be taking the lights out of Ziam, or he's going to be taking him down 10 times like some Usman versus Woodley style, okay? I'm going to be coming all night, T-Wood, but he is aggressive. He's got good finishing instinct. He's a hungry prospect, okay? He's got that finishing drive to him, but I feel like he's just less tested against the UFC level, and Ziam is on a mean winning streak right now. He's the more patient technical fighter to where I could see him kind of out striking him at bay and point styling on him to where he's not knocking him out, but he is kind of piecing up Fernandes over 3 rounds and defending any takedowns if he is fucking shooting him at him, okay? Fernandes, he's not too much of a grappler. I feel like he's going to try and maybe stand and bang for this one, but and he does have a solid amount of output on the feet. He does have good power, but I'm going to be trusting in Ziam and the odds makers for this one, okay? Moving on up next to Modestas Bukaskaus, and I swear to God, this is my 5th take saying this because of this fucker's name, okay? So thanks so much, Bukaskaus, okay? Sounding like kick fucking Butowski. Taking on Paul Craig here, my prediction is gonna be Paul Craig. I hesitate there and I started there because, dude, I went back and forth on this fight so much, okay? Bukaskaus is a huge favorite. He's a damn near almost minus 400, at least from what I'm looking at right now. And Paul Craig, he's 0-4 in his last 4. He's coming off with a very bizarre fight, to say the fucking least, the kind of bullshit fight against Rodolfo Borralho. And then the fight before that, he's getting pieced up and outstruck by Bo Nickel. And then before that, he's getting knocked out by Borralho. Before that, he's getting submitted by Brendan Allen, okay? So it hasn't looked good in terms of the striking for Paul Craig, okay? He's getting outstruck by Bo Nickel, motherfucker, Bo Nickel. He's getting knocked out by Borralho. And then against Rodolfo Borralho, a fight where he's actually looking good in the first round. It ends via dramatic Oscar-winning bullshit in terms of Borralho, okay? It's a fucking no contest. So Paul Craig, I think he looked good in that fight. He was throwing fucking spinning wheel kicks and shit or whatever the fuck it was in that first round. I don't remember it, okay? It was fucking Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Borralho, okay? But I remember being like, okay, Craig is getting the fuck after in this first round here. Maybe he can fucking take over here. Because Craig, in every fight, he is an underdog. He's a big underdog, okay? So you can't really trust the odds too much. But man, Bukaskaus, there is a reason why he is a favorite here, okay? He's powerful on the feet. He doesn't have like the brutal one-punch KO power that's taking away everybody's fucking soul. It is devastating, okay? He is able to get knockout here and there. And even though he does still go to a bit of a decision a bit more often than his knockouts occur, it is still power to worry about, okay? He's on a 3-fight win streak right now, and he's coming off of a pretty controversial decision over Ian Cutelaba, but that's still a good fucking win, okay? People forget, man. I mean, I'm telling you, man, Bukaskaus is on a solid win streak right now. Now, a lot of people thought that was a bit of a robbery. You got Daniel Cormier crying home about it as well, but in general, I can't take away from the win streak, man. He's looking good on the feet, okay? He's getting submissions here and there. He's getting his knockouts. He's going the distance. He's doing it all, okay? But the power is something for the chinny Paul Craig to worry about, because if you're getting flatlined by Borralho, you should be concerned, okay? And if you're getting outstruck by Bo fucking Nickel and his mean right hook, you should be concerned. And the thing about Bukaskaus too, he could get crafty submitted by Paul Craig, okay? That's what I think is probably going to happen here, but his takedown defense is pretty solid for the most part. Even against slick grapplers, like, he has solid cardio to maintain a good pace, and he has that takedown defense to stuff a lot of what they're throwing at him, or trying to throw at him on the ground, okay? So for Bukaskaus, he's going to want to keep the fight standing and land the big shots early and avoid being taken down, fucking obviously, okay? Try and crack the chinny Paul Craig, but for Paul Craig, man, just survive. Overly maintain the distance if you fucking have to in the first goings of the fight. Take over the second and the third round. Really try and implement the grappling and get the better of the scrambles without getting fucking chinned, okay? Now, I understand that might be tricky for him here, but when I'm looking at the losses for Paul Craig, most of them are to just better competition than the guys that Bukaskaus is beating, okay? And even the guys that he's losing to, like, I feel like the competition that Craig is losing to is just better. So I feel like that shit kind of does matter. So even though Bukaskaus is on a good win streak and he does have good stand-up right now, I'm going to be trusting in Paul Craig having a bit of sloppy striking, a bit of slower striking, but I feel like it'll be alright enough to hopefully hang in the fucking pocket, or at least hang for 3 rounds on the feet against Bukaskaus, and hopefully Craig is able to somehow mix this one up on the ground. I don't even know what it is about this fight that's telling me to go with Paul Craig, okay? I probably shouldn't. On paper, Bukaskaus has the power and the good enough takedown defense to keep this fight standing and just piece up Paul Craig, or maybe knock him out for fucking 3 rounds, or in the first, whatever the fuck, okay? But for Paul Craig, I'm trusting in the higher level experience. I understand with Paul Craig, his stand-up can be a bit of a hit or miss, and a lot of the time it is a miss, but I'm hoping for this level of competition specifically, it is enough to where he can hang on the feet without getting knocked out, and is able to implement his grappling, get the better of the scrambles, and maybe even get a crafty Paul Craig submission, okay? Moving on up next, and I'm not really sure how this one specifically ended up on the main card, but it is what it is. It's a sneaky good banger. We got Borralho taking on Mason Jones, and my prediction here is going to be the crafty Mason Jones. I saw him versus Jeremy Stephens live, okay? Stephens returned back to the UFC, and Jones returned back to the UFC. Arguably, Jones' return was much fucking bigger than the pipsqueak Jeremy Stephens, but in general, it was a fun fight. It was a good back and forth scrap. It was a pretty good pace. And Mason Jones, you could argue that he was heavily on the back foot, or he was just smudge grappling that last round, doing anything he needed to do to survive. But I don't fucking blame him. Even old man Jeremy Stephens at this stage in the game, okay, has the fucking power behind his hands. I'm the hardest hitting 140 fucking fiver to take out the lights of Mason Jones, okay? Mason Jones, he's pretty durable. He's not too fucking chinny, okay? But I like the improvements that Jones has made outside of the UFC, and I feel like against Jeremy Stephens, it was an old head opponent. Yes, it was someone who used to be in that top 10 range, but it's a bit of an old head. So now you have somebody in Oki who is a lot more in his prime, who's going to be a lot more quick on the feet, a lot more accurate of a striker, because Jeremy Stephens was swinging for the fucking fence and missing most of the damn time, okay? He was putting his soul behind those shots. But Mason Jones, man, he's a very technical striker. He's good on the back foot, but he also knows how to piece up his opponents. He's pretty good at range, and I also feel like these guys are really similar in their height and their statures and their reach, okay? Their age as well, okay? Oki is 29, Jones is 30. Both these guys are entering their fucking prime or right in the middle of it, okay? But I'm going to be going with Mason Jones. I just feel like he is the more technical striker. He doesn't have too much pop behind his shots. He doesn't have devastating finishing ability, but his improvements overall to becoming a well-rounded fighter. Now for Oki, he definitely can get this one done, okay? He does have the power advantage on the feet, and he doesn't get after it too fucking much on the offensive end of things with his grappling, but his takedown defense is pretty solid. It can be a bit hit or miss, but it's solid for the most part, okay? Oki, he hits fucking hard, but I feel like at the UFC level, he hasn't really showed it off. On the regional scene, even on the Contender Series, he's getting a bunch of fucking knockouts, but as soon as he got into the UFC, he's 2-1, and that one loss is via a round 1 guillotine choke via the Marauder Chris Duncan, so there could be a bit of concerns and vulnerabilities on the ground for Oki. He could be a submission just waiting there for Mason Jones, maybe some kind of crafty finish, but I'm going to be trusting in the more technical striking, the more well-rounded skill set, and the improvements in general. I feel like he's just sharper and a little bit quicker, and he's durable enough to survive the storm that Oki could bring in the early goings of the fight, okay? I'm going to be going with Mason Jones via a 29-28 decision here. Moving on up next to the co-main event of the evening, we got Benoit Saint Denis, former S-tier Marauder, gone D-tier, and he's taking on Mauricio Monkey D. Ruffy. He's just trying to become the king of the pirates, okay? My prediction here is going to be, not much of a drum roll, please. It's going to be Mauricio Ruffy. Now, I will say this, the betting odds are fucking fair, and they continue to shrink, okay? Mauricio Ruffy, right now, he's a minus 200. I just saw yesterday, he was like a minus 250, so it's continuously going down, and in general, people are talking about Ruffy like he's going to be some kind of champion. He's the next McGregor. His striking is something we've never fucking seen before. God damn it, Bobby. The soul of Bobby Green. Is he okay? Jesus. And everyone's saying that BSD, he was just rushed to the top. He's chinny. His striking defense is terrible. He's just a poor man's soul, okay? But in general, I feel like BSD, these odds are very reasonable. Everybody was talking and acting like Mauricio Ruffy should have been some minus 500 favorite, but I genuinely feel like the odds are a good representation that this is a closer fight than people think. Benoit Saint Denis, okay, he doesn't have too many losses on his record, and I feel like people... I get it, he got knocked out by Dustin Poirier, okay? But that's Dustin fucking Poirier. That's the greatest fighter, arguably, to have never won an undisputed belt. And Renato Moicano, I get it, he busted him the fuck up with ground and pound. But BSD, this guy showed heart, man. People forget, man, this guy showed durability and grit. The fact that even though he got busted the fuck up on ground and pound, he had nothing in that first round. It was goddamn near 10-7. In the second round, at least, even though he ultimately lost the fight, he showed that the dude has heart, the dude has solid enough striking, and he's a durable enough chin that he was able to bounce back and take over the second round. So, in general, those were his only 2 losses, I believe, in the UFC. Well, he lost his fucking debut, but after that, he went on a good win streak, knockout after knockout, and finish after finish. People forget, man, BSD, he's got a mean rear naked choke, but in general, I feel like people dictate his entire career based off of those 2 losses to good competition. I know Moicano looked a bit rough against Dariush, okay, and I know that Poirier is an old man Poirier at this point. God rest his soul, rest in peace to Diamond. I'm talking like he's fucking dead. He just retired, but... I'm just saying that BSD, man, this guy still is a good fighter. There's a lot to be concerned about. There's a reason why he's an underdog, okay? Like, this guy, he could have got knocked out by Joel Alvarez. And odds are in this fight, he's probably going to get knocked out by Mauricio Ruffy. But I feel like he has the wrestling advantage 100%, at least on the offensive end of things. Now, Mauricio Ruffy, he's part of the Fighting Nerds. I mean, in general, this co-main and main event is basically just the Fighting Nerds from Brazil taking on fucking the Frenchmen, okay? BSD and Imavov. That's literally just the Frenchmen versus the Fighting Nerds. It's kind of badass. But with the Fighting Nerds, we've seen Carlos Prates, who barely had any grappling, at least that we have seen out of it. And then Gene Silva, the same fucking thing. And all of a sudden, Prates, he's developing really good takedown defense and defensive grappling. And all of a sudden, Gene Silva is submitting Bryce Mitchell. And we already know that Borralho in general is well-rounded. We'll get to him soon. But Ruffy, you gotta assume that they're prepping him in the grappling into things. You gotta assume that they're prepping him to get the better Saint Denis in the scrambles, or at the very least so he can survive, so that he's not getting taken down a bunch, so that he's not getting controlled for most of the fucking rounds, so that he's able to efficiently get the fuck back up, some JDM versus Bilal shit. And I think that with the prep of the fighting nerds, and with BSD, he does have the grappling advantage. He's the much more offensive wrestler here. I mean, Mauricio Ruffy, he's very clean on the feet, okay? Very precise, very agile. People do compare him to Conor McGregor in terms of his style and in terms of his fucking devastating power, and I think it's pretty fair of comparisons, but I don't necessarily think that BSD is some French Khabib, okay? I think that he can get the fuck after in the wrestling end of things in this fight, and I think that's going to be his keys to victory. I think that he can be finished on the feet. He is prone to it, okay? He's pretty durable for the most part, but he can get cracked. He can't get caught. He can get knocked down, okay? And fucking knocked out. Again, we're dealing with the power of like a Dustin Poirier, and I don't know if Ruffy has that power, but man, god damn it, Bobby, it's taken him months to wake up. He's so fluid. I know that James Liontop was able to survive, so that's a real fucking thing. That's a real thing. But regardless, I feel like the striking is just clearly there from Mauricio Ruffy. It's fucking, I say damn near pretty to watch. It's so fucking impressive. It's very fluid, quick as fuck, and powerful as fuck above all. Striking to the point to where I feel like he has dynamic enough kicks, and he's just dynamic and versatile enough on the feet to where he'll have the speed advantage. He'll be able to piece up BSD and maybe get some kind of round 2 knockout, in my opinion. But again, BSD, he's underratedly durable. He has the grappling advantage. If he wants to go and stink it up, and he wants to do some Chimaev shit, even if he wants to shoot a takedown within the first 5 seconds of the fight and just make that his primary goal. I mean, Jesus, Johnny Walker just did that shit. And ultimately, he was unsuccessful with the grappling and with the clinch work, but it was enough to help him survive, and he fucking won the fight. Maybe that's the kind of approach that BSD needs. Just go heavy as fuck on the wrestling. You know that this guy is dangerous as fuck on the feet. You know he's quick. You know he's probably got prepped for the takedown defense, okay? So you just gotta fucking go for it. The striking of BSD, it is solid. He does fucking hit hard as well, but I feel like his head movement is fucking damn near non-existent. He doesn't have the greatest footwork. He doesn't have the greatest striking defense in general. He is very hittable, okay? He's kind of like the Smash Bros. Punching bag just standing in front of you sometimes. And Mauricio Ruffy, he's fucking dangerous. This guy is on a mission to become the king of the pirates and the UFC fucking champion, and I'm gonna be going with him by round 2 knockout. He's so dangerous on the feet, and I feel like the team, I'm going to be trusting in the fighting nerds to have prepped him properly for good enough takedown defense, okay? And moving on to the main event, one of the more unpredictable fucking fights this year, Nasruddin Imavov representing the Frenchies, and then, I shouldn't call them that, and then Kyle Borralho representing the fighting nerds here. My prediction is going to be Kyle Borralho. Kyle Borralho, I swear to God, so over the past few days, I put so much thought into this main event. It is deceptively very hard to call and predict here, okay? I was going with Nasruddin Imavov for fucking months, and all of a sudden now Kyle Borralho. There's something about this motherfucker. I don't even really fuck with Kyle Borralho, okay? And I don't really exactly fuck with Imavov either. I actually much prefer the RDR versus Fluffy fight in both of those guys, but this is great matchmaking. It's still high stakes. It's deserving of the #1 contender spot, but man, I just don't know which way to go here. There's so many good arguments for both guys, and it's one of those fights too where the betting odds have changed. Kyle Borralho, at least to what I'm looking at right now, I mean, this could obviously change once again, but he's the slight favorite. He was kind of a solidly big underdog over the past few weeks, and now he's the slight favorite. It goes to show how hard this fight is to call, because the betting odds are literally a pick'em here, and now Kyle Borralho is the slight favorite. I'm going to be going with him to get this one done. I do rate Imavov's wins highly. I do think he's very good. I think that he is a very well-rounded fighter. He's got good ground and pound. He's got good offensive French big bad wrestling. And the guy has underrated power on the feet, okay? He's able to get an early fucking stoppage over Jared Cannonier, so I'm not going to count that as much. And I understand the Israel Adesanya eye poke TKO shit like that, but in general, he's knocking out Ian Heish. He's knocking out Shabazian, and he still is knocking out, on paper, Cannonier and Adesanya, even though there's a little bit of bullshit with those, okay? My point is, the dude has solid pop behind his shots. This dude striking in general, he's pretty fucking solid. Yes, he can get pieced up. Yes, he is hittable, but he's durable. He's got a good chin. He's able to hang in the pocket with guys' best shots, even at the bigger fucking weight classes here. But against a guy like Sean Strickland, who's hard to figure out the range and the distance, and he's so fucking fluid on the back foot, and he's so efficient with just piecing you up over 5 rounds, and he's a cardio machine, and he's even able to mix it up. He was able to take down Nasruddin Imavov. That's really the only notable loss recently in the past few years for Nasruddin Imavov, so it is hard to fucking beat him, and he's been racking up a pretty good resume. He's been beating Brendan Allen and Roman Dolidze and Joaquin Buckley as well, okay? So Imavov, I respect the win streak. He's a well-rounded fighter. He definitely is France's his best chance for a UFC champion, okay? And he's 30 years old. He just cracked his prime. He also has the height advantage here. These guys are identical in reach. But there are a lot of reasons to go with Imavov. I could see him taking down, not really taking down Borralho. He's going to be a lot more of the striker here, while Borralho is going to be trying to mix it up on the ground, in my opinion, okay? Borralho is much more the full-fledged grappler. Not to say that Imavov doesn't have good takedown defense, and not to say he can't mix it up on the ground, but in general, I feel like Imavov is going to prefer to stand and bang here a bit. And I feel like because RDR versus Fluffy is going down a month later, it puts pressure on both of these guys to get some kind of finish and get some kind of stellar performance. I feel like that favors Borralho, though. I feel like Borralho, over the past couple of fights, is a bit more of the finisher. He's a bit fucking scrappier with it. Now, don't get me wrong, Imavov, again, he's got a couple finishes lately, but I feel like the finishing ability as of late has been going to Kyle Borralho, okay? Both these guys are very capable of going to duds of decisions. They've done it plenty of times before in their career, but Imavov, man, even though it's the home crowd of France, even though he's on a great win streak right now, ultimately, Borralho, part of what convinced me to go with him, like I was trying to say, is that I can see him getting a lot of these wins. I like the win streak of Imavov, but when I'm really looking at it, like, okay, they both beat up Jared Cannonier, that's their only really similar opponent, but I would be picking Kyle Borralho to fucking beat Brendan Allen, okay? And especially in that first round, like, Brendan Allen took down Imavov and controlled him for like 4 fucking minutes of the entire fight, okay? It was a fucking stinker of a round, but still, he is still susceptible even right now, okay? Even though Imavov has made great improvements on the ground and he's got good takedown defense, he still can get taken down. And I feel like Kyle Borralho, man, he's able to probably beat a guy like Brendan Allen. Also, Roman fucking Delija as well. So, and even like an Israel Adesanya thing, like, I'd be picking Borralho probably, okay? Even if he doesn't mix in the grappling, who the fuck knows with old man Adesanya? So, I feel like Imavov on paper has the much more impressive win streak. Like, yes, it's a lot shorter and Borralho's is longer, but I mean, in terms of who he's facing, and the competition is just simply better for Imavov. But I feel like with Borralho, he's 17-1. He's much more of just the raw prospect on the rise. Both these guys are still, young and hungry, and they have good records, barely any losses, but Borralho is just a little bit more fucking fresh, okay? Especially riding the hype of the fighting nerds. He doesn't really contribute too much to the hype of it. He's a lot more inactive and seems like he's fucking yapping a lot more on Twitter than actually fighting, but he's here now a fucking year later since his last fight, over a year, and yeah, I just feel like that he would be able to do pretty well against the guys that Imavov is beating and everybody's glazing it for. Now, for Imavov specifically, yes, Kyle Borralho, he might not be able to fucking take him down a bunch. He might not even be able to take him down more than 1 or 2 fucking times. I wouldn't be too surprised. He shot a bunch of takedowns on Cannonier and was ultimately pretty unsuccessful. But the thing is, speaking of that fight, it turned into just a stand and bang striking battle, and Kyle Borralho outstruck him pretty much by fucking double. He landed hundreds of strikes, and he was able to fucking really rock and even knock down Cannonier at one point. He was just piecing him the fuck up, and it went to he even had him in some kind of sub attempt at one point, but it goes to show that Kyle Borralho, he's a lot more adaptable even when things don't go his way, and even when he's not able to officially mix in the grappling. His striking has been developing, okay? Maybe it's just something with fucking hanging out with Carlos Prates a little too much. Maybe it's someone in the cigarettes, okay? But even though Kyle Borralho, he was unsuccessful with the 1 or 2 takedowns he had against Cannonier, he's able to knock out Paul Craig. He's able to still beat the absolute fuck out of Jared Cannonier. He's able to fucking piece up Abu Smagomedov without really using too much grappling, even knock him down, okay? Kyle Borralho has knocked down at least the last 3 of his opponents, okay? Not necessarily knocked out every single one, but the power is developing in his hands a bit here, and the striking is developing in general. He was much more of a grappler on the come up, and he was getting a bit of submission after submission, and even when he was going to the decision a lot of the time, okay? Because he's not too much of a finishing artist in the grand scheme of things. It's only really recently, like I'm saying, that Kyle Borralho has become more of a finishing artist. But his ground game and his submissions, it is good, okay? Like, he does have good takedown entries. His submissions are slick. And now that he's developing power and striking, I feel like it's going to give him enough of the edge to be able to do solid against a guy like Imavov, who, yes, on paper might be the more skilled and well-rounded fighter, but I think that Kyle Borralho, people forget, man, with a bit of the inactivity here, I feel like it's going to be hit or miss, okay? Either Kyle Borralho, this is a big jump up in competition for him, and he either chokes and gets fucking finished inside of 2 rounds, or he just gets beat the fuck up over 5, whatever it may be, and we go, okay, Kyle Borralho, this guy just isn't that top 5 level like we could have thought he could have been, okay? It's just so many more question marks with Kyle Borralho. At least we know how Nasruddin Imavov is, a little bit at that upper level, but for Imavov, man, I mean, he could have fucking just waited out for some title shot against Chimaev, but he chose to take this fight here, man, and he really has to go out and make a statement, okay? And I feel like that might not favor him. Maybe a bit of pressure, especially with the hometown French crowd, and we've seen French fighters lose many fucking second times in their hometown crowd, okay? So yes, it is important, and yes, it is going to get them a little more amped up, but it's not mattering too much at the end of the day. Most of the time, the Frenchmen do win in their home crowd, but you know what I'm saying. I'm going to be trusting in both of the fighting nerds to get this one done. I think Kyle Borralho gets it done by a round 3 TKO, okay? Maybe some kind of early stoppage even. There's a little bit of a crafty pick for you. I will say this, man, I'm not confident in this pick. Like, I'm very hesitant on it. Again, I was going with Imavov for literally months and months before this, but I'm switching up to Borralho. There's just somebody in the fucking air, okay? And now that he's the favorite, usually when the odds kind of, especially in the past few months, usually when this has kind of been the trend with the odds, usually these guys end up winning, I feel like 60% of the fucking time or 70% of the time here, okay? I'm going with Kyle Borralho by round 3 TKO, all right? Very high stakes matchup though, and I dig it as a main event. Now, getting on to the blanks of the card. We have the underdog of the card, the locks of the card, the wild card of the card, and the card rating. All of them are self-explanatory, but I will get to it as I get to it here. So just starting off with the underdog of the card, which my underdog picks am I the most confident in to get this one done. I believe the only underdogs I picked for this one is Paul Craig at a plus 250 and Patricio Pitbull. Right now he's a plus 160. Basically, I'm going with 2 underdogs here, possibly 4 depending on how the odds turn out, but I'm going to be going with Patricio Pitbull. I can genuinely really see Pitbull getting this one done, man. Really stinking it up. Really showing some kind of crafty, well-rounded skill sets on display. And I feel like his chin might be able to hold up against the power and momentum of Keita, okay? Moving on up next to my locks of the card, which of my picks do I believe are not motherfucking losing here. Now, I know that I said that Benoit Saint Denis has a really good chance of still getting it done. And I do believe that. I believe that the betting odds should be close. And the BSD, it is a close-ish fight. There's a lot of question marks for Ruffy. I'm going to put Ruffy as the lock here. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna put Ruffy as a fucking lock. I'm also gonna put Ziam as another one of the locks of the card here, so that's for 2. And I'm gonna keep it as just those 2. There's other picks that I'm confident in here, but there's not a lot of big favorites on the card. And I fuck with it. I fuck with the more unpredictable matchups. Okay, we have a lot of pick'em fights and a lot of close odds in general, but I'm only gonna be going with Mauricio, Ruffy, and Ziam as my 2 locks of the card. Now moving on to the wild card of the card, it's somebody that's being pretty overlooked, kind of overshadowed, and it is doable for them to win, but it's a bit unlikely. But if they somehow do it, they could really shake up the division or their rankings or just pull off a really big upset and shake up the card in general. I am going to go with Benoit Saint Denis, man, which is funny as fuck because I just said this whole thing about how Ruffy's a lock. Maybe he shouldn't be, whatever. Benoit Saint Denis really is the wild card of the card. There's not a lot of people going with him, but he is a slight enough underdog to where, man, he could really shake shit up and shut down the hype of the fighting nerds. And if Ruffy loses, I'm not really I'm even less confident, I guess I should say, in Kyle Borralho fucking win. But Benoit Saint Denis, he is a good enough fighter, and it is fucking France to where maybe he could either stink it up or pull off some fucking upset finish. Who the fuck knows, okay? But I'm going to be putting BSD, really reminding people possibly why he is in the rankings, okay? If he somehow wins this one, he's my wild card of the card. I'm not picking him to win, but you know what I'm fucking saying. Now moving on to the card rating. When am I going to rate this card from 1 to 10? With the 5 being about average. Now, I do want to say this. I rate the pay-per-views a bit harder than I rate the fight nights. Obviously, a 5 out of 10 pay-per-view is going to be a better card than a 5 out of 10 fight night, okay? But I'm going to give UFC Paris a 7 out of 10. To be honest, it's a #1 contendership spot main event. I fuck with it. We have a good co-main event as well. The main card is pretty solid. The prelims have some pretty solid name depth, and in general, some pretty solid fucking matchups. I dig Tybura versus Delija. I dig Andreas Gustafsson versus Fakherdinov. You got Brad Tavares and William Gomis and Omar Sy on the card. So it's pretty solid prelims. In the main card, it's a 6-fight main card with a pretty fucking good main event. Again, I don't like it as much as I like RDR versus Fluffy, but it's still a good fight. I just don't want to let that fight overshadow this one. This is still a good scrap. It's worthy of being a main event. It's very high stakes, solid co-main event, solid depth in general in this card. And I think we're going to see a lot of finishes and a lot of good scraps. I'm going to give this, and I want to say this as well, the French crowd is always a fucking good one. I'm going to give this card a 7 out of 10. Obviously, this was a pay-per-view. It wouldn't be anything too good, but for a fight night, it's pretty fucking stacked, okay? And that is going to be it for the video here, boys. Thank you so very much for giving me your time and attention and making this far in the video. I really appreciate it. I had to get this video out early. I'm going to be going out west for a few days, a little bit of a fucking vacation with the fellas. I'm excited for it, so I wanted to get this video out now and then probably have a tier list for when I return, okay? But in general, thank you guys so very much for watching this video. Give me your time and attention. It means the fucking world to me. Leave your opinions in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Who are your predictions? Who are your locks? Who are your underdogs? Let me know. I would absolutely love to hear it. Now, all the smoke here, I appreciate you all a lot, boys. I hope you have a good one, and I will see you all next time.